I first want to welcome you all. I'm Katherine Mozzone here on behalf of Mojostreaming. And if you haven't already been to Mojostreaming, perhaps it's your first time, you want to head there and go ahead and subscribe and make sure you'll be alerted to any sorts of discussions we have in the future. And of course, we do have these interviews and these panel discussions, we hope even more frequently, but we already have some in the book, so we invite you to take a look at those as well after you watch this one. This is a very important segment that we have for you today, and it's a discussion on wolf hunting in Scandinavia. And more directly, one of our panelists has called it wolf slaughter. It's in a blog that we have posted on our website, and we'll also post that in the chat so you can visit that later on. But first, I want to welcome our panelists. We have 3 of them from Scandinavia, all representing different parts. I'm going to have them introduce themselves one by one in order of appearance: Suzanne, Eva, and Nina. And tell us a little bit about yourselves in a brief little blip, if you would.
Shall I start? Eva?
Oh, sure, Eva. Yeah.
Well, I'm Eva Stjärnsvärd, and I live in the south of Sweden. So when I talk about wolves, they make fun of me because we don't have wolves in the very south of Sweden where I am. But I am working as a board member for the Hunting Critics, and with this, since 5 years, or nearly 6 years, we've been sending appeals to the government to stop all these licensed hunting for bear, lynx, and wolves and wolverines. So my my engagement in this is getting wider and wider. But first it was only for lynx principally, but now it's like opening a big black box. You just can't turn around. You just have to continue with this. And my profession is artist, painter, and I have another profession before that as a diplomat, but that's a long time ago. So that's my curriculum up to date.
Eva, I have to briefly ask you, are those your works behind you?
Yes, and there are no wolves.
But they're tremendous.
Thank you. I just have to start working on Nordic animals now. I mean, it's a since long due thing I should do. But I must just confess something also. A well, you've seen that from my paper. I'm very emotionally engaged in this. So it's very hard for me to work as a board member for this NGO, Jaktkritikerna, because it gets to you, all these animals that normally I make portraits of animals, and now I've seen the bad side also of humanity. So I think it's a broader thing than just talking about trophy hunting and wolf hunting. I suppose that maybe all of us agree to that. It's what's happening in the world, and it's not the animal issue is always diminished, unfortunately. Well, yes, it's my paintings.
Why do you think that is?
Sorry, why? Yeah, I'm really, I don't know. I mean, there's a very big force from the hunting industry, as we know, and I know that Bernard had tried to get Eduardo Gonçalves, who is really doing a fantastic campaign. I think you know, in Britain. That's like a first step to get, like he said, to get the foot in the door. If you can get the ban on the trophies from trophy hunting, the import of trophies, but it also, the next step must be to question today: is it really? Is this in a modern world? Does hunting really have a place? And I know where I stand. but that
Yeah.
has to be on the agenda. And I also think that it should be part of human rights not to be obliged to be victim to what's happening. That was a bit further.
But it's all tied together. And I think that we'll see that as we talk to some of the other panelists. Suzanne, you want to tell us a bit about yourself and why you're here?
Yeah, well, I'm German. I moved to Norway in 2000, and I do come from a hunter's family. I do have a hunting license myself, and I did work for Blazer hunting weapons and everything. But I mean, everybody evolves and gets wiser, hopefully. So of course, we have another view on wolves and animals in Germany than we have in Norway. So I was under constant cultural shock. And like it was before, when I was like 16, I got my hunting license. We learned that we have to hunt foxes because otherwise they have diseases and everything. Now the research has come in Luxembourg. They have abolished fox hunt and nothing happens. The nature is taking care of itself. And the same do we have with wolves and everything. Okay, if they do get dangerous because people feed them and they get tame, might be dangerous. But everything is going fine. They have sheep behind fence. They have pastors who watch them, and it's everything goes together. And then I came to Norway, and everything is so different. Hunting is it's not something you do. It's a real glorification. It's not like, okay, I hunt because then I have a wild boar in the freezer. Here it's just a glorification of hunting, and especially hunting with loose dogs, which is not allowed on the continent. And that is the hunting with the loose dogs is the main reason that they want to extinguish the wolves. They do not want to evolve. They want to keep in their old traditions. But as a German, I can tell you there's traditions which are not so good. And not every tradition has to be kept like it is. Because of course, if you hunt with loose dogs that just roam wild and they go after wolves, and the wolves will kill them. So actually, I think this is one of the we think this is one of the biggest issues. And because of course, it's with the sheep, it's a big business. It's really a big business. So I am not so against hunting. I lost the understanding of it. I have to say that. But knowing that how a hunter feels when he has his freezer full of meat or something, I am not so strict and say no. But I am absolutely against trophy hunting because there is no sense behind it. That's just to kill. So you killed something. It's not to kill for a reason, for food.
Right.
And everything else except for food is just not justified. I mean, if also the Inuit or something, if they hunt whales, it's a completely different story than if Japan or Norway hunts whales. So I do have my lists. I do not say completely no, but I say no, but with exceptions, with a little asterisk on in the back.
Right. Kind of. I mean, I know a lot of folks who've been in your position, especially because of their place on the map. You know, folks in Montana who have access to whatever they have access to, whatever they're hunting for food, elk and deer. I just want to say, even though I'm butting in between all these panelists, we do want to ask folks to wait until the end. There will be a time where you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. But for now, only I can do that. And we do want to ask you to mute your microphones as well, if you wouldn't mind. And we thank you for your cooperation on that. Suzanne, was there anything else that you wanted to add about yourself? Because I kind of butt in there just because I related a lot to what you were talking about. And I think a lot of the folks in the United States can.
I just wanted to say how I came to this anti-wolf. We were always engaged, the whole family, in hunting, but also in protection of nature. So even my father, who is still a hunter, not with a gun anymore, more with a photograph, he always had we can shoot, and this one has to survive something. He was always like very slow. So I came to the whole story. And today
Why wolves?
This nobody understands, not even my father. Wolves is, I mean, why does anyone want to shoot a wolf? You cannot eat a wolf. A wolf is a natural predator. A wolf is actually taking care of that the animals in the forests get healthier, because that's that ecology of fear. So they get more sporty and everything. So I don't think any serious hunter, not even the Germans, most of the Germans, understand why people want to shoot wolves. I think this is not hunting. This is more like a complex to prove one's manhood, or no normal person can understand this.
That was an excellent answer. I was more asking why you chose to speak out against wolf hunting, but I think that kind of your answer ties into what this answer might be as well. What would you say?
Yeah, well, we have wolves at home, and we have a farm, and no problems with wolves. Quite the opposite. Since we do not hunt, it's strictly forbidden in Germany. Those who are around the farm, the stable flocks, they somehow learned, okay, those electric fences, they hurt. So they don't touch the animals, and on the same time, they keep other wolves away because it's their territory. No other wolf can pass. So we actually have, that's the guy with the sheep who works with the sheep, he says, that's my house wolves. They are mine. Don't touch them. They don't touch our animals because they know they hurt, but at the same time, they keep away those lone wandering wolves. So we have a different view of things. And it's always like, I was in Germany with Norwegian sheep farmers trying to build bridges a little bit. And we were in the tightest wolf area in Brandenburg, where they have 2,000 wolves in a very small area. And even the sheep farmers there said the same. Don't touch our wolves. As soon as you shoot them, that makes space for foreign wolves. They don't, and then the problems start, because then we have to teach them. We have guarding dogs, we have fences, the whole shit begins again. So they just like their wolves where they are and don't want anything to be changed. So I didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Norway, we also have Finland represented here with Nina, right? Nina, you're kind of tucked away in a cottage there. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how your story relates to, and maybe doesn't relate to, these other panelists.
Well, my name is Nina Harju from Finland, and right now I'm in a wolf territory here in southern Finland. The southeast wolves lives here, and I'm a lifetime activist for wolves. I started to learn about wolves when I was 7 years old, and it has been my passion for many decades now. And I'm the member of Finnish Nature League's wolf group, and I'm the board member, has been maybe over 10 years now. And when I was a kid here in Finland, there was no wolves. It was kind of magical animal. It was I was born in 1965, and when I was 8 years old, the wolf was protected finally in Finland, because there were only few wandering only few wolves here, just wondering. They came from Russia, and ever since they came, they got to be shot because there was no tolerance for wolves, because there hasn't been wolves for decades, and people hasn't used to them. And we had in my childhood home, we had dogs. We bred hunting dogs too, and I was within these hunting people when I was a young woman, and I saw everything what happened between the hunting, and it was not good at all, and I turned absolutely away from that kind of a culture. And the most thing I was wondering then was that the people who was so familiar and kept dog as so good man's best friend, and dog is man's best friend. So how can they hate so much wolves? I couldn't understand it, because this is a same animal, I think, so that it's the same animal, and the hate to wolves was just unacceptable for me, and I couldn't understand it. And after that, when I joined the Wolf Action Group 15 years ago, I have been the board member, but the main thing that I have to do is to be a wolf ambassador to kids and youngsters in schools around Finland. And I've been giving lessons to thousands, maybe 10,000 of young people. And we were awarded to with the EUCN Finnish Committee prize a couple of years ago for the best what was it? What was it? The best.
Say the word, and your friends can help you.
Yeah,
you were ambassadors for the wolf, I think.
Yeah, but we were prized by the EUCN Finnish Committee for the best insights for nature in the year.
Yeah.
5 years ago. Best insights for Finnish nature. My Norwegian and Swedish friends can translate it. The best insights for naturen.
Yeah, it was not only for wolves, it was for nature as well. So the prize was, the award that you got was wider than that.
It was about the wolf ambassador
yes
project we had. Yes, and they had thought that it's so very important that we have given these lessons to kids, and I have been talking about it many times there in Sweden too, when I have visited there, and when I was invited there to speak in some kind of demonstrations and so.
I was at that demonstration, I think, in Stockholm. You mean Stockholm?
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yes, I heard it.
Yeah, and first time I was in Ludvika in 2012.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was the biodiversity award from the IUCN.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a very prestigious award, so
yeah,
it's not just a little one.
No, I really, and it's something I have passion to do, because we have in Nature League, we have lessons now for 19 years, and I am waiting now that the kids that who were the first ones in early 2000, that they have grown even adults now, and maybe they can make better decisions for the wolves when they grow up and can decide things. I think so.
I think that it's just brilliant how you've described the work you've done and the impact. It sounds like you're being a little modest, but it's been important, as has been the work of all the activists on our panel, even the artist activists, right? Because that makes a difference as well, Eva. I do want to get into the meat of this. Just a few nuts and bolts that I have written down so we can get to the nitty gritty. The wolf hunt in Scandinavia is currently underway. In Sweden, it's 27 wolves, Norway 54, and in Finland, which is very similar, they have very similar rules as Sweden does. We were looking at your paper, Eva. I want to ask you why, and I actually wrote it down, you called it a personal expose, and said that the information was questionable and biased, partly biased. So, and I will say that you use very strong verbiage, but why put that out there and use the language that you did? Why was that important for you?
That first was, the paper was thought of as a paper for myself if I was going to talk to Bernard in the first contact. But then Bernard asked me if you could post it. So the original thought of the paper was for me personally, because I wanted to get this out in other places as well. The word biased is that I am absolutely for the animals, 100%. So it was a way of saying that this is not a paper to discuss, for me, to discuss how many wolves we can accept. That's not it's not interesting for me at all. I'm thinking of the animals in the first place, biodiversity, and I think also of what Susanne was mostly Susanne was talking about. The cruel hunting methods are absolutely horrific, and they are getting worse and worse and worse. So my paper is pro-wolf, but I know that the situation is very complicated because of the politicized situation, especially in Sweden and I suppose Finland and Norway as well. Though I'm very surprised, positively surprised about Germany, although I had a hint about that before. But
just a brief history. I have just a brief history that you actually included in your paper that says, and just for folks to know, wolves were nearly eradicated because of humans. And then in the early 1900s, there were protections. Switched in the 1930s when hunting interests kind of took over, as you said, and it's still kind of the case, but wolves were protected in the 60s, and that changed despite Sweden's agreement to enter the EU, right?
Yes.
And then since 2010, licensed hunting has increased and trophy hunting has gained more popularity. So this isn't a paper just about hunting wolves. This is a paper about the increase, I guess you use words such as, the grotesque and, these words that rightly describe some of these new techniques. So why do you think, and how do you think that this hunting has been able to evolve as it has in Scandinavia?
Yeah, that's in Scandinavia. That's a very difficult question, but
All right,
I
we'll,
see
we'll stick to Sweden. Let's stick to Sweden.
No. I think it's all of the Scandinavian countries, and don't forget Denmark. There are a lot of trophy hunters going to everywhere in the world, and they are a big part of the Safari International business. So, but the thing is that the authorities in Sweden that are now giving the licenses to kill the bears, the lynx, and the wolves, they don't address the problem of trophy hunting, because in the Swedish way of thinking, it's I mean, the authorities admit that this is cultural. You're allowed to keep the skin, for example. You're allowed to keep the trophies, and even in the protective hunts, they have, since last year, they are allowed to keep the trophy of the animal, and that's new. So I think it's several politicians in the recent past that has been getting this through. I'm kind of the question is very, very big, I think. But I don't think that they are aware of, but they are not associating it with the trends in the rest of the world. And that's my interest. I want to expose Scandinavia and Sweden, that because of this trophy hunting that is legal, made legal, this makes also the how do you say that, Nina was lacking a word, so now I'm the one, because that creates more craving for trophies. I think that is linked to what's happening in other countries. If you can hunt leopards in Tanzania, you can hunt lynx in Scandinavia, for example. It's linked, and you have to see the bigger picture. As I said, I want to.
You there? Yeah. Ava's frozen. Suzanne, I also wanted to ask you the same question. And some of the things that we're talking about as far as hunting, the changes in hunting include the pack dog hunting, and and we also heard Nina talking about how dogs were actually, or I don't remember who spoke about it, but how dogs were the reason why people hated wolves, is because wolves attacked their dogs, and for whatever reason. Why do you think that hunting has gotten progressively worse there?
Yes and no. I have my own theories. As I said, I have been living in Italy, where they always had wolves. They don't even care. They just are there. Then in Germany, now in Norway, I think one theory is that there's very little people on a very big area here. So they have little people, vast nature, and all you have much of is the one thing you don't value so much. So they live like they have endless. Nature is endless. They can use it up endlessly. And of course, the hunting dogs, they just let their dogs go and run. It's a lot of things. I think it's a lot of factors, villagers against those in the city. They feel neglected, and they feel I think it's the whole wolf hunt is more like a substitute for another frustration. And if you see that also, now I'm also in German groups, that comes up in Germany as well, those hunters that are really like, they are not only wolf against the wolves, they are against the states this, they are against this, they are against that. They are not only, it's just the wolf is the substitute. and gets the whole aggression. And I mean, I have I saw a picture on Facebook when they posted everywhere, and they see like I was with shooting 32 wolves, and it's so wonderful every time to shoot them with a silencer and hear the bullet clash into the corpse into the body of the wolves. They usually screech out of pain, but that's nature. I mean, if you read things like this and they think it's normal, it's just you see that there's something else. There must be something else. That cannot just be the hatred against an animal. I mean, no person in his right mind hates an animal, and that is real hatred. Now it's the moment I have to switch off because the dogs come home.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, that was well said. I also wanted to include another type of hunting tactic that has been getting a lot of attention, and that's helicopter hunting. And we actually, unfortunately, saw that in the United States first. The Yellowstone wolves, or the wolves around Yellowstone National Park. So that's not something to be proud of, obviously, here in the United States, but it's now spread across the world. Nina, I wanted to ask you, kind of from Finland's take, there was a proposal to kill 20 wolves outside of this specific area to regulate the wolf population. And you said earlier that people just, they didn't accept the wolf. I think that was you. I'm sorry if it wasn't, but I think it's still an important point, because this proposal was supposed to promote the acceptance of wolves by allowing hunting, also to prevent damage, control the population. I wanted to get your take on that.
Well, I think that people's acceptance for wolves, it comes not by hate, by killing wolves. I think that the authorities and politics give in their own, what they decide to do to kill wolves. They show the people that wolf is not wanted to our fauna, and people do the same thing. They think that when the government and politics and think so too, so it is right to hate the wolf, and it's not the right way to act by politics and those who decide the things. And the mostly I think that it's like Susan said, that it's not pure hate for wolves, I think, but it's only I think it's because they kill dogs, and hunting with loose dogs. It's so, if we think that there are 300 wolves, there are, in last autumn there were over 80,000 hunting dogs in woods here, 80,000. So you can see that then they want that their dogs can run freely and safe without scaring for wolves, and that's the reason here outside the reindeer area. But in reindeer area, the reindeers are the reason, and they are strongly protected there, and wolves are not allowed at all there. And so, like Susan said, that I think that all traditions are not good. Not just something is traditional, it doesn't make it good. It can only be like a bad habit, I think. And there are many things that have changed in world from past that was common in history, but it's not allowed anymore. Many things have changed in 1,000 years and years, and so I think that
I want to ask you.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I want to ask you, do you think humanity has changed? Do you think that there has been a greater emphasis on killing for sport rather than killing to survive? You're saying no, Suzanne. What do you think, Nina?
Yeah, people, it's kind of hobby. It's time to, it's a way to spend time with friends to hunting. Nobody here in Finland needs to hunt, but it's in countryside, it's very common that everybody, almost everybody, hunt in little communities, but I think that I sometimes think that it may change, but then the other day I think that nothing has changed in my whole lifetime. The hatred to wolves has only growing stronger every year, I think, and I've been quite a long time in this wolf situation. And I think that when internet came and all these technical, you know, the cameras to put in trees, in woods, and that people can see wolves more often, even though they don't see it their own eyes, but they know they're going somewhere near. It makes people be afraid. And 10 years ago, when there was no cameras or drones or something, there was very much little talk about wolves at all. Maybe in the winter when they see the tracks also, people talk a little bit more about wolves, but not like this, not like now. And I think that when you think that man has to develop himself, we have get down. We go dumber. When the techniques go forward, we go back.
We're sliding backwards, in other words. That's fun. Yeah, I want to get your take, Suzanne. I know you were eager.
I don't really agree, because if you see at the numbers in Norway, like 97% of the population like the wolves. The same numbers you have certainly in Finland, the same numbers you have in Sweden. So it is not that the majority of people went down. And excuse me, I'm always having those parables. If you just look at, for example, the US with Donald Trump, Donald Trump is not the majority of America. He's just the one who screams loudest. And I think the same as it is here with the wolves. It's those few, they scream loudest and they get all the attention. The bad thing is most of them own quite a lot of country and areas and forests. They have a lot of property, and that is one of the main problems, because the numbers talk for themselves. It's not the people that went down, it's just the people we listened to we listened to the wrong people, and we give the wrong people our attention. And this is like what I said is turning in Germany now. Before they said, okay, the wolf is protected, you can scream whatever you want, this is the law, your problem. And now it begins like to turn there as well, that those who scream get more attention. I think that is a very dangerous game to play. We play when we listen to that it's a tiny minority trying to destroy for everything. So I don't think, I'm not really, and I really do trust to the young people who, I really trust the next generation. I put all my hope in them.
Thank you.
I have to put my
yeah, please rebuttal. Yes, Nina.
Yes, Susanne is right there that it's not the amount of the people who want wolves away, who wants wolf to be dead. It's a little and tiny and very noisy part of people, and because if you think the wolf area which I'm in right now, if there are maybe 5 active hunters who want to kill the wolves, they do it with permits or without them, and it's effective because there is no one here in woods to look after them. They go with snowmobiles and you know, these not cars, I don't know what is called, but how you can move easily in terrain with motor engine and like that.
Snow scooter.
And, yes, and if there is little amount men, they can swipe the wolves away, even though they are just a few, and that's why the wolves population haven't grown so much in these 3 countries, because there is poaching in these 3 countries, and I think in Finland it's the most common way to wolf to die.
Yeah,
as by a man,
everywhere.
Somehow by a man. Yes.
Everywhere, also in Norway and Sweden as well. Most wolves die because of poaching.
Yes.
And they put on out. We have been out in the forest, and the problem is also that those people, they try to scare people, normal people. They try to scare them. They poisoned dogs. They decapitated pet geese, and just to scare people to raise their voice. And I know when we were out in the woods controlling, we found poisoned swamps with blood with poison in. So they poisoned the wolves, and don't really care if it's a wolf or an eagle who eats this, or a child for that sake. So those people, they are extremists, and they are a few. That is not, and as I said, it's the majority does not speak up. That is the problem. Yes. The majority should speak up and stand up against them, and just say, now, here, stop. That is our country as well, not just yours. And yes, punish them if they go poaching, have a control on them if they go poaching. We have, like, the Rovviltets Röst in Norway, there is Annema, she's always out checking, and she found the poison and everything. They're extremists. They are not normal people, though they think they are normal. You have your
thanks. Yeah. I was trying to be quiet for y'all's sake. I want to get you caught up, Eva, because you were gone for a few minutes. We started talking about whether humanity has changed over the years, whether there has become a greater emphasis put on killing for sport rather than killing for necessity. And then we shifted to the population of pro wolves versus pro hunting, I guess, or pro killing wolves, however you want to phrase that. What do you, and that was a big part of your blog, Eva. So I want to make sure that we get to you on that.
Yeah. what you mean exactly? The last thing I heard was Susanne mentioning that it's a minority of extremists, but that doesn't explain, I think. In Sweden, you have to register to hunt predators, and that is done at the EPA, Naturvårdsverket in Swedish. And we have like 2,000 hunters who wants to apply to hunt 26 wolves. And I think that's a sign, that's a very scary sign. And I heard from Värmland that they were going to kill 6 wolves, and they were 150 hunters were out. What is that a sign of? That's not only extremists, that's something I think more scary, as a matter of fact, than a minority. I don't know what Susanne and Nina thinks, but there are a lot of people all over Sweden that wants to hunt predators. Maybe it's an old macho culture, and it's a renewed macho culture because of trophy hunting as well. And then you have in these small places where you have where it's difficult to take a stand against them. I think small societies, small villages. I think, was it Nina or was it Susanne that mentioned that about the poisoning and threatening people? Even the police in some regions, they say that it's a culture of silencing people. That's a problem. They don't get them to witness
because they're afraid.
They are afraid. And I know of people who lived in Dalarna who were sabotaged. Their car was sabotaged. They had things in the mail, and it's a very hostile environment. Even if it's a minority, they have a very huge impact in these small places.
Do you think that's because of the money? Do you think that's because of the hunting?
I think it's more primitive, as a matter of fact, yeah. But the bad thing in Sweden is that the big hunting organization is backing them with silence. That's one thing. They don't take a stand politically against these minorities. It's a kind of mobbing culture. It's a mob. And I mean, I've also grown up with, my father was also a hunter, but not the hunter as in north of Sweden, hunting for food. So I know the difference between hunters and hunters as well. I don't know if I'm answering you what you were heading.
It's all great. I want to, and because we lost you during kind of a critical point, I want to go over, well, first I want to ask you if there's anything that you were trying to explain or that you are eager to share because you got cut off and something was on your mind.
I was wondering if I mean, the hunters are cooperating all over Scandinavia, I think, and also the authorities. But do we, I mean, the NGOs, do we cooperate more than on Facebook?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
There's often a lot of people out there, but of course it's always difficult to get enough people out there. And those who are out there are also those who are most threatened. I mean, I often had problems with my husband, and who says, well, we have animals, we have my grandchildren were born here, we're here, you cannot do this, those are other people. I said, well, you know, they have children as well, and I can be a bitch as well. So it's like we do work together.
Yeah, now we are always looking with admiration towards Norway. I mean, in my little group, because you seem to be very active, and you've even gotten the World Wildlife Fund to do was 2-3 years ago, and even Leonardo.
Well, we won this year. We won this year. They had the law stopped the wolf hunt inside the wolf zone.
Yeah.
until January the 29th. So it's still not completely finished, but we are a good step further. I mean, they want to shoot over 50 wolves from the 50 we have. We have no wolves after that. And if you say you have 2,000, we have 20,000 hunters with a population of 5 million. Who want to hunt wolves, and you have what, 23 million population and have 2,000. So
No,
we beat
have
you on that one.
10 million.
We beat you
10
on that
million.
as well. But I think
Yeah.
it's about 20,000 people, hunters, who took out a license for
20.
It was like 6,000 there, 5,000 in this fylke, 5,000 in this fylke, who took out the license for 50 wolves. I mean, this is sick. And wolf hunting is very, very difficult. I mean, if you ask also wolf hunters from America and everywhere, you cannot just, they just don't shoot the wolves. Wolves are tortured to death. They hardly ever fall with the first shot. The photos we took when they documented, they shoot them in the tail, in the leg, in the mouth. There was a wolf 3 days, had 8 bullets in him until they finally got him. That is not hunting, that is torturing to death.
No.
Hunting is you sit still, you see the animals, you shoot, dead. That's hunting, but not this one, not wolves.
Susanne, it's 40% of the wolves that they are getting to analyze, the hunted wolves, 40% have old wounds and have old ammunition in their bodies. So it's a very, and that goes for all hunted animals, deers and foxes and whatever. That's something that you don't talk about. All these
no,
wounds.
what I meant was the recent wounds. There was a from Nina, I think it was a few years ago, when they said there is.
I'm going to stop you real quick, Suzanne. You're a little out of focus. If you could adjust the camera slightly.
How do I do that? How do I do that?
I want to say that the hunters and the poachers get away with the crimes.
Better?
No, but that's okay.
They get away with the crimes because the punishments are very small. And that's why they poach wolves and other animals too, because there are no enough punishment. They are only something little paid or guns away, maybe, or not even though. And they try to manipulate people by calling wolves with bad names and compare wolves to rats or something like that. After that, I still wonder why they want to have a trophy of a wolf, because if they compare it to rat or some kind of, that kind of animal that should be destroyed, that in same time, I can't understand why they want to have the trophy in wall or something, because they don't appreciate that wolf. And
yeah, but it makes them big, strong men, in their thoughts. It makes them big, strong men. And what I wanted to say is, not again to the shooting, that they had a study that each wolf which is hunted today, they need in average 3 bullets to kill it. And that is what I mean is torturing to death.
Absolutely.
And plus the old ones.
What's interesting,
if you hunt, you have 1 shot.
I think that maybe we should make that a rule, you think, or just a guideline to implement it in the interim. It's interesting because of what was in your piece, and that said that that all of this legislation has been in favor of hunters, Eva, despite hunters representing only 3% of the population. Yet we're talking also about an increase in hunters wanting to get a license and an increase in licenses sold or tags sold for just a few number of wolves. And I just thought that was really interesting because of the disparity there. I want to ask you about what you think all of what you've talked about has had, what kind of impact has that had on the actual population? Because, you know, I think it's Sweden, right? Where it has to be a 300, that's what they've determined, 300. And instead of that being the minimum number of wolves for a healthy population, that's now
genetically healthy. Yes.
Right. So
yeah.
all of this hunting, and if we do see more pieces of legislation being passed that's going to allow for more hunting, what is going to happen? What does the future of our wolf population and wolf hunting really look like?
I can't answer that, but there are very bad signs, I think, because we've had like an open case in the European Commission against Sweden and against Finland as well, I think. Yeah. And somebody said just like that it has to be a catastrophe before EU really nails down the problem. And I don't know what kind of catastrophe that is, if that's going to eradicate all the wolves, or I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a view, because I think politically it's very difficult in Sweden, because the hunters have a strong force in the government. They have representatives everywhere. I don't know how it's organized in Norway or in Finland, but in Sweden they have, like I wrote in my paper, they have the money to have this lobby organization, and that has been for 100 years like that. And the hunters organization are against wolves. I've just heard a rumor that they are going to approach the European Union on their own, asking to kill wolves, to have a permanent, I don't know if the word is permanent I haven't seen it written, but to have the ability of an exception, which is really worrying. I don't know if some of you have heard about that. It's only the NGOs are writing to the EU, but now the Hunters Organization is going to do that as well.
An exception, whereas if they get into their livestock, they can shoot them, or what kind of exception?
To facilitate, to have an exception against the Art and Habitats Directive, so that they can kill wolves. Yes, now it's a process. Now you have to apply, and it's a whole legal structure and legal system that they have to go through to hunt wolves. But that was just a rumor. I just heard it, and that worries me, because they have like representatives within the commission, I think, also the hunters. And yes, don't forget, Susanne knows this, I think, there is an European organization called FACE, and that's 7 million hunters, and they are very close to Brussels. So it's a big organization behind this, not only for hunting wolves, of course, but I'm kind of pessimistic, because it's so black and white in Sweden.
Yeah, but Sweden is in the EU, and you can start the ECI, a European Citizen Initiative, throughout Europe against hunting wolves, which we cannot. And I'm a beekeeper, so I was within the Save the Bees, and I am sure you get enough signatures to be heard. And then, I mean, several million people are still more than not every hunter hunts wolves.
No,
so many hunters actually are for wolves, and we have to divide them. And then you can actually change something also on the European level, which helping everybody, Sweden, everybody.
Yeah, but
maybe that would be an idea.
What I wasn't clear, maybe I wasn't expressing, I'm not sure about this change can come in Sweden. It has to come from the EU. I mean, it has to go, it has to be the EU that forces us to change. I'm
Yeah,
not
well,
sure.
But as I said, you can force the EU to force Sweden.
Yeah, yeah. But
well, I
that-
think it's pretty interesting that the EU, I mean, already they've gone against the EU's rules for how long, and nothing has been said.
years.
So
Mhm.
why hasn't anything been said? That we don't know.
Because
I
you
think
have to tell the EU. You have to complain, of course.
Mhm. But we have. I mean, NGOs has complained.
Yeah.
And
I think that
there-
nothing's,
yeah.
I think that nothing's gonna change before hunting to run before they stop the hunting dogs free running in the woods. Because when you lose your dear family dog there for wolves, and then the hunters put pictures of the dogs into internet or Facebook or something, the hate just grows. And because they are still, even though that they know that they're in the wolf area, they let the dogs there, and the accidents happens, and the hate grows and grows. And I think the only way is to forbid the to use the loose dogs in hunting. I think it's the only way, but it takes time. But it takes still time that they stop breeding hunting dogs and get something more hobby for some other hobby for them to do in their time than to hunt with loose dogs in woods. Because I know that if I'm here now in the wolf territory here, and I have 2 dogs, and when the wolves came here, I make a decision that I'm not letting my dogs no more free run in the woods, even not in the winter when it's allowed to run in woods, because I don't want to be one who cries after that wolves killed my dogs. And we don't need hunting dogs nowadays, because we have so much technical things to help hunting if there are still people who want to hunt. I am not a hunter, and I'm just out of it. And but I want more wolves instead of dogs. We need more wolves and more other predators in our woods to keep balance and so.
Yeah, but
Nina,
there
you're
you can
pointing
also
out
find
a very important problem, and that's the NGO I'm working with. That's one of our main issues, is the loose hunting dogs for other animals as well, because
Yes,
it's cruel and but that's very difficult to get at, because in Sweden it has become a business with the hunting dogs, and they have new dogs, new races, like it's called plot dog. I don't know. Yeah. And that has also been introduced in Sweden without any control or any. So it's not only the classical hunting dogs that they're using. They're using specific dogs for predators, and if we could stop that, that would be a very big step. But I think it's very difficult to stop the hunting with loose dogs.
So what do you do? Which direction do you go, Eva?
We are we are sending appeals to every licensed hunt and all the protective huntings as well from my NGO, and we stress in every appeal the question of the loose hunting dogs. And we even said that there was even an administrative board in Gävleborg who, as a reason to kill wolves, before the licensed hunting started, was that the hunters wanted to use their dogs killing elk. And then we said that if the hunters know that they're going to hunt in the wolf territory, they have to have their dogs on a leash and they can go on hunting. But this is a huge problem. I don't know,
like
how
trapping in the United States, you know, don't bring your dog, don't let him go off leash. It's simple.
Yes. No, because normal people never. I wouldn't let my dogs loose in because of roe deer and other animals. I
Well,
would never do that.
It's in an area that has been classified as one where, you know, there's hunting or there's trapping going on, and in those situations, it should be. I mean, there's that question. You know.
Yeah, but another compromise would be vests. I mean, they already developed vests against boars, which also with iron nails on it help against wolves. They have them in many countries. Then the dogs are relatively safe. So that would be sort of a compromise. If you have to put on the vest on a dog, for example, going hunting moose or roe deer or anything, that would be sort of a middle way. If you say, okay, you want to protect your dog, you have to protect your dog, so you do it like this, and then both is possible without the wolves being a danger to the dogs. I mean, I'm feeling sorry for the dogs as well. You cannot just say black or white. This is a large gray area in between.
Yeah, but they have the statistics for dogs getting killed in hunting is very high in Sweden. They get run over by cars because they are hunting boar or deer. And I'm surprised that the veterinarians don't protest against this, because it takes a lot of veterinarian I mean, we don't have enough veterinarians for the house animals in Sweden, but there are a lot of veterinarians that has to treat these wounded hunting dogs. That's another little detail that nobody takes up. So I think that, and I think also cruelty to animals. The law in Sweden doesn't include wild animals, and if you can't change that to change a better protection for wild animals as well, then I think it's very difficult to get through with to reduce. I mean, to change the hunting methods, because you have to have a definition of what is cruelty to a wild animal. Is it cruelty to hunt a lonely female young wolf puppy for 5 to 5 hours with dogs? Of course it is. For any of us, that's cruelty, but it has to be defined, and it has to be defined by the hunters as well. The ethics has to be better among hunters.
And it sounds like there can be
have to change within
a
themselves.
conversation. It sounds like there could be a conversation, though, a negotiation between, you know, the hunters and the folks who don't want to see these animals hunted or slaughtered. And that could say something like setting those parameters, because in reality, we've all heard it. I've heard it from all of you, you know, how hunting is a business, and how hunting, the trophy hunting has drawn people from even out of the country. I want to ask you all if there's anything else. I have pages. We could go on forever. I'm not kidding. But I want to ask you all if there's anything that we haven't talked about or haven't touched on that you think it's really crucial for our viewers to know at this time, before we start taking questions.
I saw a question there from Kim.
Yeah, we will take questions. I just want to make sure that there's nothing else that you all wanted to add before we did that part.
Yeah.
No, we're ready for questions. All right.
No, I still would like to encourage
please.
everyone if that we maybe get together and formulate and word ECI and send it to the EU, both for the protection of wild animals and everything. I mean, we are EU citizens and we have the possibility to do this. Thanks God, it's a democratic European Union, and we can do that. So we have the right, and I'm sure you have a lot. We will have a lot of people with us, also from the hunters. Don't forget, there's also hunters who are really just enjoying nature. Not every hunter is a Rambo. I mean, we have to be we have really fanatic wolf defenders and we have really fanatic hunters, but as I said, it's a large gray area. And Suzanne, also the normal hunters would be with, because they see also their reputation damaged by all those real hardcore trophy hunters.
Could you define for us what you're describing, this petition type thing that you'd be submitting in the signatures of people and how that could?
Yes. A European citizen initiative is you can apply to the European Union that you want to make this and this initiative, and then you have to collect, I think it's 1 million signatures or 100,000. I don't know. I think it was 100,000. If you have 100,000, then you get the initiative, and then you have 1 year to collect 1 million from all over Europe. And I mean, we are 400 million. You always get 1 million together. And if you have that million, the European Parliament they have to absolutely set up a commission and work out a new legislation. Then we have that now with farm animals, where you can fill out what do you want. Every citizen can, what do you want? Can they be kept in bases? Can they be kept like this? And then they make the legislation after that. So that is a procedure, but it's possible if we unite and just form out exactly what we want. As I said, it went with the bees and the farmers against those big pharma companies with the pesticides. So it's the same with the hunters and the animal protection. It's a possibility we have and never use, actually. We have a very good democratic tool, which we don't use. I think that's a little bit sad.
I do want to make mention that I reached out to the EPA in Sweden to try to get I know, okay, I'm a journalist, though I have to try to get the hunter's side or the rule maker's side, right?
Yeah,
and I would love that.
Well, it was a challenge. They wanted a list of questions. They wanted all the details surrounding what the panel would include, and you know, ethically, you don't hand out a list of questions ahead of time when you're asking someone, a public official, information. So I didn't provide that, but I did give them parameters of what this, I mean, it was 3 paragraphs long. And I will say that they didn't have enough time to didn't have a lot of time to respond to kind of put this together, because we put it together pretty quickly. But I did not hear back from them after the first email exchange. So just to have that out there, that we did try to speak with government officials about current policies and kind of the evolution thus far. I want to get to questions now, if I might. If anybody has listed something down here, if you want to put your questions in writing, or if you want to, I can also call on you if you'd rather do that. But let's go to the ones in writing. Okay, your opinion about those. All right, lots of comments. This is good stuff. Did someone say they saw one down here?
Yeah, from Kim. It just flashed on the Swedish hunters can get 20 to 40% of the, it's about the vest for the dogs.
Okay, here's one, Ida, from Ida B. Landowners will kill the wolves to sell moose hunting rights. Money is possibly the biggest reason for the desire to take out wolves in Norway. Rich landowners have great political power there, and some of them are also politicians high in the system. Farm owners claim they want the wolves removed because the wolf takes the sheep. Thousands of game cameras have been set up in the forest to keep track of where the wolves are. And this is placed in private owned forests. And it goes on to say that they don't need hunting for food in developed countries. So what I never heard anything about moose rights. What's your take on that?
Well, the landowner can, of course, he has so and so much moose he can shoot a year, and that is a lot of money. Of course, a moose, if you can shoot a moose, that's a lot of money, sometimes more, sometimes less. And with the politicians, of course, the landowners, like in Sweden, have a lot of power in politics. I mean, we have the SP in the government now, and their motto was "Take all Norway in use." The only other country in the world you find this is Brazil, burning down the Amazon. They want to use the whole country. So of course it's sort of a very big power in politics, because the rich, before it was all, it's traditional, so the richest could hunt. Today it's everybody, but of course they still have their old legal rights and claims, and the more land you own, the more moose you can hunt, the more you can sell, of course.
It's like that in Sweden too, because there are big forests that are stately owned, but they also sell the license to hunt.
Yeah.
And they have complained that they don't get enough lease for this when there are wolves. So in Sweden, it's the same problem.
Same here in Finland. The big landowners own and sell the licenses to other hunters and get big monies for that. Yes.
Yeah, but then I have to say, I mean, wild animals are everyone's. Wild animals are wild. The definition of a wild animal is that it does not belong to nobody. So I don't really understand how they can say my moose or my thing, that they belong to me just as much as they belong to you and everybody. They are wild. Before they are shot, they are wild. So that is quite a stupid excuse, I think.
Right.
It's not, yeah.
The property rights of wild animals in Sweden is very heavy. If you own the animals that live on your land.
You don't in the EU. Wild animals are wild. Sweden also is in that. Sweden also is in Natura 2000. So if a moose is in your garden, you do not own the moose.
No, but if you have time to kill it, you.
First when it's dead. First when it's dead, you can own it. Not as long as it's alive.
Yeah. But then coming back to the question of trophy hunting, something that is really, I think, intriguing is that in Sweden the predators belong to the state, to Sweden, but that makes the trophy taking even more bizarre, I think. That's just a small comment on the side for us.
I see Frode Werner is lifting his hand.
Yes, he is. Go ahead. I can unmute you. There you are. If you'd like to be unmuted, go ahead with your question. I hope. I lowered his hand, but now he's gone. Oh, no, that's not. Would you like to speak to us, or was that I don't know what you would call it. Could you all hear that?
I'm here, yeah. But Frode isn't.
Did we just miss words? I thought I heard something. No? Okay.
I heard too.
No,
If you could-
I just wanted to say that the moose population has been exploding in Norway, at least the last few years. So on one side, they are complaining that the moose is destroying the forests by eating the small trees growing up. And on the other side, it's so much money in, we have to protect the moose for hunting, but then it's actually not so much money anymore. I heard that some actually went down with the price. And instead of just leaving the wolves alone, especially those in the wolf zone, they would take care of the problem. So that is sort of, they say two different things in the same sentence somehow. They complain about too many moose and then they complain about too many wolves. I mean, one takes care of the other in a way.
I'd be added that a hunting organization in Norway sued the state for more than 2 million to cover the cost of selling hunting rights. So apparently hunting rights, as we've been discussing all afternoon, they've been backed by big bucks, right?
Yes, but that's Europe. I mean, hunting before it was the high class which was hunting, and they still have their privileges over the centuries. That somehow evolution missed this part of the population.
Well, we don't want to talk too. We don't want to get too abrasive because we do want to ask. We do want to ask if there are any hunters in the audience who might want to speak up and talk with us about their opinions if they so choose. We do want to hear from you all. We are open to hearing from you. It looks like there's another post down here. It looks like more of a comment, but talks about white-tailed deer and how they were brought 90 years ago from North America. Oh, I'm trying to unmute you. Let me see. You can continue with that. I just want to make sure that Frode gets a chance. Okay, here he goes. The landowners in Norway don't own the moose, just the hunting rights. Okay, right. But the question he has is, what is the problem with trophy hunting in relation to wolf hunting? And do the Swedish hunters get to keep the pelts? I think we heard that they do now, right?
They do, absolutely, from the licensed hunting. And they also, since 1 year back, get to keep the trophies from protected hunting, which is very, very strange. I think it's it makes the protective hunting extremely it's really strange that they can issue license to kill an animal to protect their livestock, but at the same time it becomes like a trophy hunt. And some of these animals are killed from helicopter in the northern Sweden, which makes it even more strange. So yes, they can. Yeah, yes, they can, and they can even get this. I think I wrote that in my paper. They get the permission from the agriculture board to export the trophies as well. So the authorities really facilitate taking out the pelts and the skins and the trophies, which is also sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. I was just going to ask Suzanne if she had something to add.
No, I was just getting a direct message here.
Oh, well, please don't let
I'm-
us keep you from that.
I'm not reading it out. It's not really child safe. But quite creative.
Okay, well, sorry about that. Well, it looks like, okay, so the shooter, that's a good point. The shooter can keep the pelt and export it. Is that allowed too? I mean, because we know that folks from outside of Scandinavia, the EU, can come, but what about exporting it?
Yes, they can get an export license if they apply for it through the Board of Agriculture in Sweden. Yes,
I see.
and
But that is
it's not too complicated. They even facilitate that for the hunters.
that is grounded in CITES. I mean, this works for Africa as well. All the hunters that go to Africa, as long as you have hunted it legally, bought it, you get that CITES document and you can export and import it wherever you want to.
Yeah.
The problem is not only the wolf hunt, the problem is that for example, you have 300 individuals in Sweden, which is the minimum, actually should be the minimum or the maximum. The same, we have like 3 or 4 or 5 births a year within a small tiny wolf zone in Norway, no more. And they call this is the target, but now it's the minimum. And then they call this is the minimum viable population, which is completely, I mean, it's so far away from the truth like the moon. It's a political value. It's a complete political value. It's not
based on science?
No, it's not based on science. I mean, you need more than 5 wolf families to guarantee that there is a healthy genetic population. So that is so very different from Scandinavia to the rest of Europe, where I don't think like France or Italy and Germany, they don't even know how many wolves they have.
Well, and we didn't get into the inbreeding as much, but that is a huge issue. You need fresh blood, as Nina was saying, from Eastern Europe, from Russia, and they have to get up north through Norway to get that. And if they're not allowed through, then what does the population look like because of that? Do y'all have any thoughts?
I think everybody here in Finland and Sweden and in Norway remembers the Susi wolf. Do you ever remember the wolf named Susi?
It was before my time, my wolf time, but yes, I do remember, because there has been written so many things, in so many circumstances about that wolf. Yes.
Yeah, and it's a good example for the
tragical story.
Yeah, so hard to go from Finland or Russia to Sweden or to Norway, almost impossible. And when they go through to reindeer area, they are almost all of them are killed.
Yes.
And that's only few of them who can go there to the middle of Sweden or Norway, where they can allowed to live. And I can't understand why things can be so that Finland and Sweden, the reindeer area, can be so important. It was over 10 years ago, I was contacting with politicians in the ministry in Finland that they told me that that situation is not going to change in a reindeer area because of the Sami, indigenous people, and it's not always on priority to the wolves, and they are not ever going to be allowed there.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry?
I'd like to ask you all this question here. Why is it allowed to hunt protected animals in the first place? Is the system corrupt? And I heard from all of you that it wasn't just wolves that you were passionate about. You know, I heard it from you, lynx. That's
Yeah.
where you got your start. So tell me,
That's coming up now.
that's a good point.
True, links.
So why hunt protected animals?
Ooh, that that question should be asked to the government. Well, I mean, it's when they've decided the minimum of each species, the hunters has taken that as a maximum of acceptance. So everything above the minimum is they can shoot. I mean, this is very simplified what I'm saying, but you're right. I mean, the first question is why hunt them at all? But there are all these complicated reasons, as the livestock, the reindeer, the hunting of moose, the wolves killing the dogs. So it's a huge how do you say it? It's a bigger problem than just saving the animals.
If we have that answer, I don't think any of us would be sitting here right now.
The main problem is the absolute unwillingness to find compromises, constructive compromises.
Yeah.
There are possibilities. We've seen this in Europe, in countries with a lot of more wolves, like Romania, Italy, Germany, a lot of more livestock out in nature. Spain, that don't have the same problems, but it's the absolute unwillingness to do something for it, to compromise, to go out with the sheep. They roam free in Norway. They set them out in spring and collect them in autumn, and then they check them once a week. Oh yeah, there's two, they're okay. And then 120,000 was missing like this year, and like 2,000 were actually taken of wolves, not even maybe taken of wolves. They are paid, and the rest of the over 100,000, they get stuck in moors, they fall on their backs, they break their legs, but nobody is talking about them, and they are just unwilling to learn from others, to get those mobile things and work. I mean, sheep is not a job here for most of them. They have like 40 sheep. You cannot live off this. So instead of having some professional sheep farmers, you have hundreds or thousands of hobby sheep keepers who just don't have, I don't even think we have a school here for that they can be professionals. So that is and the unwillingness also to compromise if it goes with hunting. Sometimes, like I said, the vests. I mean, then I got the answer, yeah, well, they get sweaty. Okay, but there is possibilities to meet in the middle. But I think it's some disease of the time that people don't talk to each other anymore. But well, you are an idiot and you are an idiot, and you just don't listen to each other anymore and find compromise in the middle. I'm sure it would be possible somehow if both sides would listen to the other.
That would fix a lot of things, right, Suzanne? I want to give you each an opportunity to kind of wrap up in 30 seconds, approximately 30 seconds, because I know that might be tough in 30 seconds, but I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to just what you want the audience to take away from this discussion today. I'll start with you, Suzanne.
Well, as I said, go into the forests, learn the children about how everything is connected, from the little bee and ant to the wolves, and join us if we should start this ECI now. Join us, and also to the hunters, try to compromise. I mean, we can talk to each other. We're all human beings somehow. There's bigger problems in the world than wolves and others, so we should not make the problem of the wolves bigger than it is, and let's keep them for our children. I mean, I have grandchildren. I want them to live in an intact nature.
And
That's actually
also,
that for me.
I want to extend that to also, I want you to answer Ida's last question, which is how do you address politicians about the minimum population? That's going to be part of your answer too, but I'll give you a little bit more time for that. Continue.
Well, the minimum population is set by the IUCN for every species, actually. And I think for the wolf, it's 1,500 in this area. And I know in Germany, they said 400 and whatever flocks have space there. The IUCN has scientists who found out the minimum viable population, which has to be. So, of course, I would just tell the politicians, well, listen to the scientists.
All right, that's perfect.
Now I sound like Greta Thunberg.
Well, it seems like we had to repeat ourselves a lot. I'll go. Eva?
Sorry, sorry, I didn't hear you.
I was asking you if you could wrap up in approximately 30 seconds, but I'll give you an extra 30 seconds to answer that question.
Yeah, well, I want to expose the trophy hunting and the big picture internationally, that we are, I don't know how, well, I mean, there are movements going on in European countries, and they have to think of the export import trophy hunting, which must also influence Sweden. I do hope so. On a positive note, I just can say that we have to go on fighting, and I agree with Suzanne. We have to find other ways of being reunited and going through addressing the questions in EU. Yes.
Perfect. Nina?
I don't know. It sounded kind of.
No, it made sense, especially for those.
I was going to say, I was going to give you a Greta saying blah 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 to all the governments, but yeah.
You know what you were thinking now.
Yeah.
Nina?
Yeah, I just love to be here in nature and in countryside with wolves and all the animals, and they haven't ever harmed me, no way. And sometimes I see them, but they never come to me, and they are beautiful and majestic animals, and people don't have to be afraid of them. And you have to learn your children to educate them for the better world, and go to the wood that the hunters can see you are there too, that they can not poach and do the bad things, that to go around and take your friends with you, and so like that.
Well, I think that would be powerful for anyone, right?
I don't know. I just, yeah. Yes.
I think so. I mean, how else are you going to learn? Being there sounds like, I mean, I'd love to see a wolf in real life.
I have seen, because here are nearby are 2 packs wolves in 20 kilometers here. Wow. And it's fantastic. I have seen them many times. And
yeah,
ever do any harm for me, and they have seen me many times. Mm-hmm. And my friends too, and it's amazing. It's amazing to see them. I can see I can see my dogs in when I look at them behaving and with pack, and they are just like dogs.
Yeah.
And we love our dogs, so why can't we love wolves? Because without wolves, we even wouldn't have our dogs as pets, because they are domesticated wolves.
But on what you're saying is also that I missed saying is that wildlife tourism should be much more exploited by the governments, because we have like a treasure here in Scandinavia, and if that was really done and they could show you, they could prove the money that brings, it would also change the role of the predators. And I talked to a photographer who is specialized on African animals, and I asked a Swedish photographer, and I said to him, why now it's the pandemic and you're in Sweden, why don't you go and hunt, I mean, take photographs of the bears, for example? I was in August, and he said, no, in Sweden they are so difficult to see, they are shy, they are scared because there's too much hunting. I think that was a sad thing to hear about our countries. So they are very elusive. Yes, and if the politicians would change that, I mean, could they change the view of what the animals mean?
Yes.
Some do, of course, because otherwise we wouldn't even have the protected 300 wolves. But still, there is so much to do on that side, I think.
Well, I think here we're ending on a wonderful note, which was come visit Scandinavia. I think that's what I got from that. And I'd be happy to oblige. And I think a lot of the folks in this chat room would as well. I want to thank you all for attending, and especially our three panelists for being here and for discussing this very important topic. And it's not going away. So I think that there will be opportunity for continued discussion. And I hope you all will join us for that. And again, if you are not already subscribed, please subscribe to Mojostreaming. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Katherine. And thank you, Bernard, who was the initiator of this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
all.
as well for letting our voices be heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.